A head-on collision on Route 20 resulted in the death of both drivers. One, a 29-year-old man from Montreal, and the other, a young woman who remains unidentified. Both vehicles were completely demolished. The rare sexually transmitted disease venereal lymphogranulomatosis has been identified in Canada. Within little more than a year, 22 cases of the condition, also known as LGV or Nicolas Favre disease, have been diagnosed. Until now, all victims have been men who've engaged in unprotected sex with anonymous partners, making it difficult to trace the illness to others who may have unknowingly contracted the disease. Health officials are concerned at the possibility of it spreading among the population. Left untreated, LGV can lead to genital deformities, encephalitis, and sometimes death. While the risk of fatality remains small, victims have demonstrated an increased susceptibility to hepatitis C and AIDS. The disease is endemic to developing countries. In Toledo, Spain, authorities have confirmed that a 12-kilogram bomb planted beneath the rail car of a high-speed train line had been live, but did not explode due to a malfunction in its detonation system just before the train entered the tunnel. All rail traffic was interrupted to remove the device and inspect the rail bed. The status of Jerusalem, security measures, and the sharing of water. ID Gene Pharmaceuticals laboratories of Israel believe they may have identified yet another gene linked to schizophrenia, the third to be isolated by researchers since the year began. Researchers estimate that between 5 and 10 specific genes are associated with the chronic psychosis that induces distorted perceptions and thought patterns, emotional changes, and delusional behavior. According to the research team, the most recent gene to be isolated may be the one to trigger schizophrenia in over 20% of those who suffer from the disease. Researchers have been working for 10 years to isolate those genes that cause schizophrenia. Early this year, an Icelandic team and another including both Icelandic and Canada is one of very few nations in active preparation for a flu pandemic that could potentially strike any day and cause millions of fatalities. The World Health Organization has expressed concern that such a crisis may be imminent, citing evidence of the presence of the avian flu virus in several Asian nations and a possible increase in the common flu virus. A combination of the two could lead to a new virus that would unleash a worldwide epidemic. In that event, the World Health Organization... Over the last several weeks, almost 500 migrant birds have been found dead on the banks of the St. Lawrence River. The cause of death has been determined to be avian influenza. In the Beauce region, pigs have been infected with the same virus, which is transmitted by contaminated bird droppings. Been reported since midnight. As recently as yesterday, the World Health Organization made public an apparent case of transmission between humans, although reliable information confirming the possibility remains unavailable. The transmission of the virus between bird and man has reached alarming proportions. The 83 human cases reported since March 11th have dramatically increased within just a few days, exceeding last Thursday's 5 million fatal cases reported. Transmission between animals and humans threatens to result. Devising a vaccine is, at present, impossible. It has been demonstrated that genetic realignments among different strains of the influenza virus, whether originating in birds, humans, or pigs, can potentially give birth to new substrains that can be virulently infectious among humans. The World Health Organization has determined that transmission may be indirect through unwashed hands, fecal matter, and objects that may have been contaminated by blood or saliva. It is therefore strongly advised to avoid contact with anything that may present a risk. New fatal subtypes are now spreading. Tap water must be boiled for 15 minutes before ingestion. Pork and chicken sales have been banned. Common objects such as kitchen utensils, clothing, and other accessories must be disinfected in bleach and alcohol, or else disposed of after each use. The transmission of the virus by all species of birds has now been confirmed. It is therefore strongly advised to avoid sidewalks that lie beneath the eaves of roofs, or beneath trees where infected pigeons may be resident. The Prime Minister spoke with the press 1 hour ago, advising the population to remain calm and to precisely follow hygiene directives issued this morning. Evacuation plan will be announced at the appropriate time and will be conducted in alphabetical order, according to the most recent census information available. Gloves, masks, and protective clothing are your first defense and considered essential protection. Advise only your immediate family of your whereabouts. Just confirm that the avian flu can be passed between humans. Dozens of humans have reported dozens of infections originating in birds and authorized a preventive culling of crows, pigeons, and seagulls. All persons in possession of firearms are therefore authorized to utmost important that no one be abandoned to the anguish of their solitude, which is itself a form of fatal virus, and the only such illness that can be transmitted in an absence of human contact. Today is perhaps a perfect day to set aside our differences and to reflect on the common values that bind the community of man. The temperature is 22 degrees and the sun is shining. Please take note of the surprise appearance of the President of the World Health Organization at an emergency meeting, revising our plan of attack against the new virus, which is increasingly known as influenza solitaire carabine. But there remains doubt as to whether demonstrators would ever accept assistance, given the extreme tension that prevails among them and their deep distrust of such officials and human beings in general, in whom it must be said trust is always misplaced and deception always prevails. Until one day, we realize we are totally alone in both our joys and our adversities, whether in the city or in the countryside. Because even when nothing seems to remain, one thing is constant. That thing is man. And he is you. In regional news, Joliet police were called to the scene last night at about 1 a.m. when a fugitive barricaded himself in a house trailer located in the woods surrounding the village of Saint-Côme.
A female colleague called authorities after the man had harassed her at work and sexually attacked her in the woods.
The man fired several times on the peace officers before attempting to flee into the forest. After a vigorous chase, police fired in self-defense on the man, killing him. The individual was identified as Thomas Gendron, originally from Saint-Côme, but who had resided in Montreal for a number of years. He left no one to mourn, and those who knew him will soon forget him. That's about it for this news broadcast. Have a pleasant evening.